Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Reese, their part number S405D. This is a saddle threshold and their dark bronze finish. And this video is to simply serve as visual evidence of the item and talk about where you would use such a threshold. So first of all, the thing that I'd like to point out is that I have seen a lot of dark bronze thresholds in my career. And I've seen a lot of them that arrive damaged and scratched and dusty and extremely dark, to the point where it's hard to argue that they're not black, even though they're not black. The dark bronze from Reese is always very clean, almost always free of any defects or scratch marks whatsoever. People are ordering a dark bronze because they want dark bronze. They don't want scratch marks on it. They don't want dust on it. It's very strange to me the way that manufacturers generally treat dark bronze thresholds in the terms of the condition that they arrive in. Reese is not like that at all. In years, I may have had one that I said, whoa, wait a minute, we can't send that to the client. That's clearly damaged. Because what they do is they slide the material, the 16-foot extrusions kind of against each other would be my guess. And also when it's packaged, the screws need to be put down to the back side of the threshold and probably taped down. Or, even better, is that they're run long in the clear plastic packaging and they hang off the sides and they're not folded over, so that you've got 10 thresholds and they're just bouncing on each other as the delivery driver takes it from that state over to this state, and it's gone through 3 terminals. It damages the hardware. Same concept with kick plates as well. You've got to keep that stuff away. The other thing I'll remark about the Reese is that this is a rich brown type color. It is certainly dark bronze. Many dark bronze finishes from other manufacturers are going to be dark, like I had said earlier, approaching black. And I want people to use Reese, especially not when they're matching aluminum storefront, but when they're matching oil rub bronze hardware. So if you've got oil rubbed exit devices, hinges, metal cover closers, or even sprayed dark bronze on hollow metal or wood, Reese is the only choice, in my opinion, you should consider. If you're matching dark bronze storefront, this is too light, in my opinion. This is very rich, and it's elegant, and it's nice, and it's clean, and it has tone to it, but it's not going to match. I've had a client say, boy, that dark bronze is awfully light. It doesn't match my dark bronze storefront. The client sent me photographs. Yep, it is not dark bronze. There's a clear difference in the jamb and the threshold, and actually he ended up replacing all of them and going with, he's like, I need something darker. Well, there is a manufacturer in particular that's really on the opposite end of a Reese, that's extremely dark, that when I know that the guy wants something extremely dark, extra dark bronze, yeah, I wouldn't use Reese, but I would use it in every other instance. So this is a saddle threshold. They call it a saddle threshold. If you use your imagination, it kind of looks like a saddle on a horse. And where would you use this? Let's talk about that right now. Speaking of horses, saddle thresholds are really the workhorse of the threshold world. This is a 405, and that means it's 5-inch wide and that it's 1/4 inch tall. That's what the S405 means. And their own structure of putting part numbers together. You're going to use this in any instance where you need a typical threshold. You want just a floor plate, a sill attached that you can have a door sweep, an automatic door bottom, a door bottom, anything. Make contact with the top of your threshold and be done with it. You don't have a need for an offset. You don't have a need for a bump up or a latch track. You just need thresholds is what you need. And this is an excellent type of item to solve the need to seal the bottom of the door. Why? Well, it's the right size. Your jamb is going to be about 5-inch. Your door is going to sit at some point over somewhere here, okay, depending on where it's placed. It is going to be the right height. It's absolutely handicap compliant. Not only 1/2 inch tall is handicap compliant, but it's handicap compliant in this threshold, not because it's 1/4 inch. That is handicap. What makes it handicap compliant is the rise over run approach right here. This does not exceed what's permissible in A117, the document A117, and I'll show you where a copy of that is. So it's handicap compliant. It's got a fluted top, and that makes it somewhat slip resistant. If you've ever, and I have, if you've ever walked over a smooth top threshold, which Reese and others make, I've had my, in a wet condition, I had my foot come out under me once or twice in my life and realized, oh, that could have gone a lot worse. So I suggest fluted top thresholds in all instances. And if you have an automatic door bottom and it's going to drop down, it's going to give you more surface area. You might consider a bristle style at that point to get kind of inside of there and seal it off. So saddle thresholds are typical. You're going to use them everywhere. If this was anything other than a 6-inch sample piece, you would have a countersink for a fastener. It would include number 10 by probably 1.5 inch flathead wood Phillips drive screws and a complementary finish. Let's switch to the screen view. And by the way, it weighs about 0.06 pound per inch with its fasteners approximately. 0.06 times 36. That means that a 3-foot piece is going to weigh about 2 1/8 pounds. And why say that? Well, maybe not so much with this piece, but it always seems to me, always, that Reese thresholds are heavier. And it's because their extrusions are thicker. There's one other feature on this. These little ridges, almost serrations that are down in the bottom on either side, that's a hallmark of a higher caliber threshold, because once you drill the holes in your floor, you run your bead of caulk, let's say, down each side, and you put that down and you tighten your screws. Those little serrations, I would think they're going to serve to bite into the surface that it's attached to. What's the force on this? Well, you've got this force pushing it up and down, and if you've ever walked over a threshold that clanked, yeah, it's because the fastening has failed. It's literally not secure anymore. But they also move laterally, and I think that this helps solve that, or works to reduce that. Let's switch to the screen view. Let's look at some supporting information. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, here's the item that we are looking at in the site. Let's take a look. There's a printable cut sheet of the profile of what it looks like. Yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like. This web that's in there, it's going to obviously support it from the bottom. It is fire rated. Well, it's fire rated when you order it that way. If you want it specifically to be a listed, your paperwork needs to call out that you want these to arrive to the project fire rated. There may be an additional charge for that, but your paperwork should call that out. If you are supplying, I did a condo project in Fort Lauderdale last year, and there were 180 unusual veneer, finish, size, 180 doors. There were probably 15 different door heights. Existing project, and none of the thresholds were specified as fire rated. And when that error was discovered, it was brought to the customer's attention and said, we have to get this resolved. Is it an issue? You know, is there going to be potential risk to life and property? It's the same threshold. It's just we need to have the paperwork accurate. Someone might want to see the paperwork. There could be an issue. There could be a fire somewhere. And people are gonna look at whether or not the thresholds were ordered as fire rated. So if you've got a fire rated job, make sure you're specifying that, just because that's the proper way to do it. It is handicap accessible, as I said earlier. There's a link here to installation. That's gonna be simply measure twice, cut once. You know, how you're gonna go about installing the threshold is really going to be how you end up seeing it fit best for your application. You know, if this is a 5 3/4 jamb, your threshold's going to come out to here. You're going to be, you know, somewhere into here with your threshold. These are the flutes. Where do you want that all to lie? You know, how do you want your threshold to be? You have to decide that. 5-inch may not be the right size. I mean, the majority of thresholds that we sell are just 4-inch because the client says, give me the cheapest threshold you have. Okay, well, it's not going to be a 10-inch. It's going to be probably a 4-inch. or thereabouts. So deciding how that all is going to work is something you have to determine. You know, a nice threshold may also have a mitered return here, where you are getting that threshold coped. You've got a mitered return so that you're closing off the ends. You're protecting the bottom of the threshold. Let's say that your bevel starts here. You can have a door sweep sit really nice here, coping it around the stop of the frame. Someone has to think about this. How much of the floor do you want to protect? You know, when you go with a threshold that is just going to hang off like this, you've got an open end here. So what's the plan there? You know, it's obviously an area where moisture and dirt, debris, particulate, insects, anything can get into. You don't want things being able to get inside of there. They can cope thresholds as well. They can L-notch them. You might do a threshold that's just simply L-notched and you need that L-notch. So items like that, add-on labor items like that are available. Product brochure. This is going to show the S405 and its sister products. What this also shows are other finishes. A and D, it's available in a mill aluminum along with dark bronze. Half-inch versions here. You get the concept. The one blind spot that Reese has, I think, with saddle thresholds is they don't get past 8-inch in a single extrusion. You can go larger, but you'll be into a thermal break threshold. You can go wider, is what I mean to say. There is a link below, as seen here, to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Reese products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. The inside baseball when it comes to the Reese catalog would be this, STC. If you're looking for sound transmission control rated material, they have an offering of products. It's very common, especially, it's always been not uncommon for people to want to order gasketing in an interior residential application where the TV room is on one side of the wall, my office is over here, and there's a 1-inch gap or an 1.25 inch gap underneath the door because back in the 70s, this house had shag carpeting, and we ripped that out, and sure enough, there was oak subflooring there. Well, that's great, but we didn't replace all the doors, so you got a huge undercut. So clients want to reduce that transmission. Fast forward into the COVID area with people working at home, and some people working at home for the absolute foreseeable future with no current plans to move back to the office, move back to the company's office. Yeah, you need to be able to reduce the transmission of sound. You know, there's lots of reasons why you would do that. And I'm speaking from a perspective of having worked in a lot of public loud places. You want to be able to concentrate. You may not be able to work very well when there's a lot of ambient noise. You might require it. I don't know. However, your clients that you're speaking to on the phone don't want to hear the dog or the TV in the background, or maybe, you know, let's say they don't care, which they probably don't too much, but you probably don't want them to hear the dog or the TV in the background from other people that are at home at that time. You might be able to want to close that out. And a super tangent here, and I say this only from a perspective that I am someone who has worked in lots of loud places. Starbucks are great. In terms of sound transmission, they're awful. In terms of finding yourself an inch of peace, I've looked at lots of products that will help reduce what you hear. And I'm not promoting the Bose A20, except I'm giving you my absolute recommendation. If for some reason that sort of price, and it's April of 2022, this Bose, they're known for noise cancellation. They're known for exceptional audio quality and every other place you bump into it. But what makes the A20 aviation headset different than the typical $300-400 Bose QC35s that you're going to bump into? That's consumer quality material. Good noise cancellation. I don't love the build quality. I've owned them. I've returned them. I don't love the build quality. What's different about the A20 is it has noise canceling in the microphone. That's what separates it when it's an aviation headset, which means it's meant to be plugged into an airplane dashboard. That's what these are for. These are not consumer. It has a very large power supply. I don't know that they're going to show the plugs. It has plugs that are meant to go into the dashboard of an airplane. So when I'm wearing my A20s in public or on airplanes as a passenger. I've got this 4-foot cord hanging off of me that I've got clipped to my body, and having 2 AA batteries inside of here is part of the package. But it is remarkable. It is astonishingly remarkable how effective the noise cancellation is in the microphone itself. You can be in a Starbucks with the barista running 3, red eyes at one time and a child crying in the background, and your client is really not going to pick up any of that. When I knew that these were the things for me to buy, I bought them from a Pilot Supply store at an airport. I was wearing the headphones. The salesperson was wearing the headphones, turned the music up in the store to about 105 decibel. I went outside, and I couldn't hear that noise very well. So anyway, super tangent. So they've got this chart of STC material. So head and jam material, threshold material, door bottom material, an STC rating of a door when it's been caulked shut, and then a comparable STC rating when you've got the Reese material on it. So STC 46, you're going to look at the 599 material with an S498 and a 330 door bottom. You can take that 330 part number, do a Control F on your keyboard for a find function, and you will get to it. Here's your automatic door bottom, STC 46. Okay. They also said that they were doing, what was it, a 599? Let's search for that. There's your 599, STC 46. Now this stuff is big and clunky, there's no doubt, but STC 46 is a very high, is a relatively high number. North of 50 is pretty exceptional, but this is going to go a long way to being able to give you some peace of mind when it comes to a noisy environment. So the pro tip of working their catalog is that STC chart. I refer to it often. Client calls, they need help with material, and it's STC rated, I go right here. And that would be the most important thing of an insider tip on the Reese catalog. The second thing I would say is scroll through it. If you work in the industry, whether you're a installer, a contractor, a locksmith, a specifier, or an architect, look at the Reese line. They have a near comprehensive offering of material that you ought to be able to solve all your requirements out of. And I'm partial to Reese because they're a smaller, simple, no-nonsense outfit. You send them an order and they send you a tracking number. They do have a minimum, so you might have to contend with a minimum order or a lead time. But in terms of lead times, they're the fastest in the industry, on average. Nobody is more reliable, predictable, and dependable than Reese, period. End of sentence. I can get a tracking number from Reese faster than I can get an order confirmation from other manufacturers. This little guy here is a threshold that's not used nearly enough. You may have heard the term belt and suspenders. Yeah, this does more than that. This bump-up style interlocking threshold latch track. So this will give you a seal here. You can have a surface-mounted hook strip here on your door. Okay. If this was a pair of doors with surface vertical rods, this feature can act as the strike for your bottom latch on a surface vertical rod. A really nifty 1-2 punch. And here would be that hook, which has a piece of inserted gasketing that will seal there as well. Here in Southwest Florida, I've seen horizontal rain, and I've seen what it does to the condos on the first and second floor after Irma. This building was built in the late 90s, or mid-90s maybe. The gasketing on the stair towers, the entry doors, it was all years beyond needing to be replaced. Years. And the water got into those units on the first and second floor, and depending on the elevation, what direction it was pointed in, and of course the rotation of the hurricane, they needed to be completely gutted because of the amount of water that got on everything. And it's all because each door was missing $100 worth of gasketing, to a certain extent. This gasketing was so fatigued and failed, it was thoroughly ineffective at providing any security. So keep that in mind. They can do interlocking weather stripping on doors as well around the perimeter. Reese is a good place to start when it comes to material. Polyurethane is a insert that Reese uses, I believe, exclusively. Extremely durable, extremely abrasion resistant, extremely impervious to ultraviolet. nothing will grow on it. Fungus, mildew. If you're using it, if you have a food processing plant, a gigantic plant from a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and this material gets cleaned down, you know, on the clock every 8 hours for each shift change, you know, whatever it is. I've been in food processing plants, and their in-place procedures they would make even the most tightly run military organizations cause a streak of jealousness there. Polyurethane is phenomenal for those applications. Okay. Anyway, I will wrap this video up on camera. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. So in conclusion, if you have any questions on this good old Reese S405D or any other Reese product, please feel free to reach out to us. I am admittedly quite partial to Reese for all of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. I like it when a manufacturer just keeps it simple. They produce a high-quality product that people are willing to acknowledge and pay for, because they want something that's better than average and want a solution that a company stands behind. And again, they keep it simple. Just, you know, from a distributor's perspective, all the work is done in the process of chasing down the vendor or the manufacturer. Where's my confirmation? Reese doesn't do that to you. One downside, and it's extremely unusual, if you were to order 300 of these, yeah, they probably don't stock that many extrusions. They won't have as much material possibly as another manufacturer might, but that is extremely unusual for me to bump into, exhausting their inventory of something. I wouldn't consider that a concern. But if you're trying to order 200 of something, reach out to us. Let's make sure that they can produce that. Any questions on this or any other Reese product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.